I stand here, the weight of years pressing down on my chest like a storm cloud, yet another punch to the gut. My life had begun as a simple whisper, a flicker of youthful dreams in a room where every word was weighed and every dream mocked. But I remember the moment the hammer fell, not from my family's illness, not from a cruel teasing, but from the deafening silence of a room that had lost its faith in the artist. They called me a fool, a simpleton, a burden. A dreamer who would burn the sky with ink and pigment. The university had spat at my eardrums, cast me out, and in doing so deemed me an embarrassment to their world. My mother's eyes, once bright with hope, now dim with the gravity of unmet expectations. My father, once a proponent of ambition, now stood there with a shrug, as if the weight of his own pride had been lifted. And my siblings. They were never quite as supportive. They saw the tragedy in me, the misstep in my path, and it festered like a wound that refused to heal. But here I am, standing on the brink of something monumental. You know, it's funny. When you're young and chasing something that feels far too big for you, you hope for a voice that speaks louder than the bullies. But loud doesn't matter when your voice is drowned out by the noise of expectation. My advisor had warned me, of course. This is fantasy science, he had said, his words dripping with condescension. You'll fail, you'll embarrass yourself, but I didn't listen, because I knew better. Because something within me was probably more authentic than any lecture, and so I left. I traded the university for the ocean, the classroom for the deep blue. I became a marine biologist, a space for my heart to pulse, not just my mind. Now the ocean is my compass, not just any ocean. Secrets lie beneath the surface waiting to be uncovered, and I've made it my mission to bring them to light. Your question about the fringe idea still haunts me. How did I turn that whimsy into a sea of knowledge? How did I transform secret channels into thriving ecosystems? It's not just about survival anymore, it's about giving back. But the memory of the moment it all started still storms my mind. I thought of my parents sitting in the kitchen, watching me fumble with a paintbrush for the first time. My mother gripped my hands, her voice trembling. "You're wasting your time," she said. "You should be studying something real, something that goes through the roof." But I wasn't. I wasn't studying the sky anymore. I was studying the deep blue, the hidden life beneath the waves. They didn't understand. They wanted me to be in the light, not unseen. And the teachers, they called it unconventional. I called it a warning that I was being too bold, too reckless, too much of a dreamer for their world. But then I met them, not just my teachers but my family. It was a week ago. My daughter, back from the marina, looked up from her phone, her brow furrowed. "Dad, what's the commotion?" she asked. I glanced at the walls, and suddenly I saw it. The skeletal remains of the old wetlands, once thriving, now on the brink. The sensors I'd installed to track the ecosystem, the data I'd collected, the maps I'd drawn, it was all there. But it was silent. No one had come to see it, no one had believed in it. She was quiet for a long time, then she looked at me, her eyes wide. "What happened?" she asked. I hesitated. The words felt heavy, but she didn't flinch. In fact, she leaned closer, her voice steady. "You should have believed in yourself." She didn't say anything else, just sat there absorbing the truth. And then she asked the question that no one had dared before. "What did we lose because of you?" That's when the pieces clicked, the unseen value I'd overlooked, the life I'd abandoned, the fear I'd let myself carry, and then I knew, not just about the ocean but about the illusion of failure. That my family had underestimated me because I was trying to do something they didn't understand, that my path, once dismissed, had become my greatest strength. I returned home not as the fool they had called me to be. Not as the failure they expected, but as someone who had weathered the storm and emerged stronger. And then there was that night, the family dinner, the quiet room, the flickering light, the heavy silence. My parents sat around the table, the same faces I remembered from my childhood, but this time something was different. I didn't fidget. I spoke, my voice steady, my heart full. They didn't touch me. They didn't look at me like they'd always. They watched me. And when the truth came, when they saw the world I'd built from their own doubts and fears, they were silent, not with contempt but with something softer. A realization that they had been wrong, that I had sacrificed their pride for something far more valuable. It wasn't just a success. It was a lesson, one that would echo in their hearts, unspoken but never forgotten. They didn't change their ways. Not completely, but they held something new: respect, not for the job but for the passion, for the courage it took to follow the heart instead of the path. And when I returned, I made it clear, this change wasn't in their acceptance but in theirs. They hadn't embraced me because I was perfect, but because I was real, because I refused to let my dreams be written off. Looking back now, I see how far I came. From a child mocked by parents to a marine biologist who reshaped understanding, from doubt to destiny, from a failure to fable, the Kakuzu is no longer just a glimmer in the dark, it's a light. And it was born from the fires of rejection, refined by persistence, and lit by the truth that some paths are worth taking, even when the world says you're too late. So here's my message to you, listeners. Never let the voices of the family silence your truth. Never let the doubt of others dim the fire of your dreams. For in the end, it's not the dream that defines you, but the courage to pursue it no matter how many times you're dismissed. And if you've ever felt like an ember in the wind, remember this: the fire you started was your own. Today, you've made an ecosystem thrive. Tomorrow, someone will look up in awe. And one day you'll ask me, dad or mother or my sibling, what it felt like to have been nobody, but they'll say the same, and that more than anything will be the lesson worth carrying.